all over the people from all over the world. My name is HENNY CHEN. I teach at the Moreau Catholic High School as well as Schhol College in California.
And then Catherine.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Catherine Ousselin, and I am in Mount Vernon, Washington. I'm a French teacher and digital literacy coach at the high school, and welcome. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I am Carmen Scoggins, and I am a high school Spanish teacher by day in Boone, North Carolina, which is in the Appalachian Mountains. And I am an adjunct methodology instructor in the evenings at Appalachian State University. Thanks for coming.
Hi, my name is Thomas SOTH. I teach in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Spanish all day, and I have been teaching for 20 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I mean, that's one thing that's always amazing to me is to look at our years of experience. And I know I could see it just as long as I've taught and all the many things that have happened to me in my teaching experience. Never in a million years would I have thought that this is where we would be today. I don't know about you guys, but teaching from home in a pandemic was never in my wildest dreams. But here we are. And so while many things are somewhat the same, there are also many things that are different. So when we think about the learning experience, okay, and the learner's experience, one of the things that I know that a lot of our listeners would really like to hear is, based on what we've done so far, what has changed? What have we learned? What have we learned that is more effective, least effective? So kind of think about that as the frame for you to respond and to then question others on the panel as we go through. Let's kind of start. Our idea is facilitating meaningful learning experiences to advance learning. And for us, that means advancing proficiency, improving performances. So let's start with this first one about something that has been a hot topic on all of the social media platforms. And this is classroom environment, creating the safe space. And the first question I'll throw out to you guys is, how are you demonstrating trust and respect for your learners and for the actual learning environment? How are you building up respect for the environment and also building up this attitude and feeling of trust and respect amongst your students and yourself? Who feels like they want to give this one a stab?
I'll start out. I'm just excited. You know, being a French teacher in a rural kind of agricultural valley in Washington State has given me a lot of perspectives on my students' backgrounds. About 90% of my students are native or heritage speakers of Spanish. So they're taking French as their third or fourth language. And I made sure when I looked at this group of, when I first came into the school about 14 years ago, I said, okay, I cannot present this as the typical French experience that maybe sometimes students have had in the past. So I made sure that our bookshelves were filled with students, like there were their various interests. So many students love soccer in our area. So we made sure that I had lots of magazines and soccer books. And then we had a wide variety of resources for them to know, like the whole room is covered with famous Francophones from all over the world, like you can see on my map. And to make sure that students of color were well represented in the books that we chose, the resources that we engaged with, and that they knew that I was investigating their backgrounds as well. That sounds a little strange, but I would go to dances, or if I went to birthday parties, participate in the community so that the students understand I'm not just here to push these cultures onto you. I would like to learn from you as well.
Mm-hmm. Good points.
How about, let me start it. Okay. So I have a good lesson. Okay. I learned from myself and in the past semester, because my master degree is about online learning. So I was so confident about my online learning design and in my curriculum. So last semester, okay, 10 minutes before my class, I always click all the tabs and then to which one I want to run and what is my PowerPoint, everything I'm ready. But the lesson went well, but he's not excited. So I cannot feel my heartbeat. You know what? You know that, right? Mm-hmm. But this semester I said, I don't want to do that. I want to change. And also during the summer workshop, a lot of teachers ask about how to make sure students can stay motivated. Or even they ask a very small question about how to let students turn on their camera, their microphone. So over the summer workshop, they always ask that one. And then I realized that one, it's not just about the camera though. It's not about just my lesson design. It's pretty much about students lacking in energy. So how can I make sure they can have energy, not talking about activities or the curriculum, just make sure, okay, they have energy to start to learn. So instead of finding a lot of material or interactive apps, I decided to start from myself. So I was inspired to watching the, a lot of drama. And then when the doctor went to the OR, the first thing they say, let's save the life, right? So right now, this semester, okay, I did two things change. The first thing is that before I start the class, okay, the 10 minutes before this class start, I decided to meditate, or you can say, okay, self-hypnosis yourself, or do a kind of a brain power exercise for 5 minutes, or 5 minutes to make sure you have the positive energy. So when you have the positive energy, that changes a totally different story. So before the class start, I use 10 minutes. Instead of open a lot of tabs, right? I start to make sure I have a positive energy. So when my positive energy level is full, I'm calm, I can respond to students' need. And then we are all naturally trained to deal with unexpected things. So instead of say, okay, I want to respect the student, blah, 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 the best thing is I just want to give them my smile and my energy. And I feel that one is better than before. So I know students are here to learn, but the most important is they want to learn from us, right? So I really want to be a role model to them. We cannot know, we don't know what is next minutes or next 10 minutes or next month, but we can deal with about right now, and we can focus right now. That's the best lesson I learned.
Wow.
I can touch on that. I think that when we're talking about that trust, respect, and those connections, what is one thing, even like Harry Wong says, or had said a long time ago, like, greet every student at the door, because once you do that, you've made that trust and you've made that connection in that first moment. And at this point, it's a bit harder, right? We would love to ask every student a question, like, how are you doing, all that. So how do you gain that respect? And so what I've been doing is, how do you ask every student a question the moment they come in? Well, I've been shouting out like survey questions right when they come in. Usually I'll try to also tell a joke, but I try to make sure every student has to respond, but I can't be there to listen to every response or read their body language. So you go off that and you make something like, how to produce the target language, make them feel comfortable, and then tie in something right after that with that something comprehensible, but from the target culture. I will say where I'm coming from at this point. I'm teaching a level 5, a level 4, and a level 6 class. So what I can give the students as comprehensible input is pretty much anything, which helps. But if you're thinking, I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna learn numbers today. So you've already learned about professions, and you might ask the kids, like, you got corny jokes from YouTube. If you have, we'll do Spanish. You've got 5 or 50 biologists, and you get them together with 50 chemists. What do you get in Spanish? And everybody knows the word for 100 in Spanish is CIEN. So you get científicos. That's it, right? But the idea, but then maybe you push that into, you're talking about a little bit of science in class, and you're showing them an authentic video, because you want to create trust at the same time, engage them in the target language, and then get them ready for the next task.
Wow. So it's a giant leap for the student population that I teach. I teach the babies, the novice low. They're high school kids, but they're, they're newbies with the language, most of them. And dropped into that mixture, of course, are several native speakers, which is so good because that helps. And they can help me with the language that I need help with. But the idea is just to build those relationships, no matter how you do it. I say every single presentation I give, and I give a lot, that we teach kids first. We happen to teach the language that we teach. So no matter what scenario you're in, all semester long, we've been remote. 2 cohorts, and yesterday was our first day face-to-face with students. Of course, face-to-face is different now because we're all masked. So at least before, when we were remote, kids could see my face. They could see my expressions. They could get my jokes even better because they could see how crazy my facial expressions were. Now that we're in the classroom, they can just see my tired eyes. That's all they can see. But I make myself vulnerable to them. I share myself with them. I share things that are important to me. And I ask them what's important to them so that they know that I care about them from the beginning, whether we're learning behind a computer screen or now face-to-face. So the transition's been awesome. Some kid walked in yesterday. I was like, hey, I'm gonna have to ask you to tell me who you are because you've never turned your camera on. I don't know who you are. And that was a huge change. But now that I see her, even though she hasn't really done much since we've been learning remotely, I feel like I know her better, and now I'll be able to make a better connection. Yeah. Now, that's hard if you end up staying remote the whole time. How do you really do that? But I think that's just totally helped me see them in a whole different light. I'll use this analogy. Lots of people, I know Meredith White's on this call. She's got like a layer with like 80 screens going on in her office, right? And I had one screen and we were using Google Meets. So I couldn't see my students' faces and my presentation at the same time. And I finally asked for a second monitor. And then I could see everything I needed to see. And that analogy of having those 2 screens reminded me I needed to see my students, but I also needed to see myself and really think about what I'm giving them, because that's on one screen, and what I'm getting from them. And so I think that really helped me. So if you're in that situation, get another screen.
That's a really important thing on how I really like this idea of we're really the ones responsible, really even more so for keeping the energy up, keeping the connection. I guess that's one part of the puzzle that they're really not prepared to do yet because of where they are, but that really is, and those are great connections. So how do we keep that energy going? How do we keep that trust and connection going as we begin to get into the sequence of what we're going to do each day? I know a lot of us are using can-do statements. Probably everybody in this group for sure is focusing on what we do when. So what have you learned in terms of that? What about sequencing? What about these learning targets? What is effective in this kind of environment, whether it's remote, blended, or face-to-face with mass? And Carmen, I never even thought about that sometimes face-to-face with mask is just as masking as being remote. But how do we keep that going? What changes have you made? What's worked? What's been most effective in terms of sequencing, learning targets, activities? Anybody want to tackle that one? Somebody has the answer.
If no one's going to do it, I'll do it because.
Okay, please.
All right. So I should probably say the situation, because everybody's situation is different, which then makes the sequence different. Because when you're thinking about maintaining energy, the previous discussion was, well, I'm on traditional schedules. We have an hour a day. I'm on block. We have an hour and a half every day. So maintaining the energy was different. Well, now in my situation, we see the students 45 minutes twice a week.
Wow.
So I have 5 classes. For each class, I have 45 minutes twice a week. So rather than having, close to 5 hours a week, we've got 90 minutes in total. So how do we maintain the energy? And I think during the 45 minutes, with a slight pulling the students in, getting them into the target language, a motivational video connected to content, a breakout where they can speak with somebody else, because our students need that. They need that student contact. So, because I really worry for students who can't get that right now. And then a wrap up, that's 45 minutes. The students are there for that, the ones that signed in, and then it's over. So the tough part is maintaining the energy and that sequence of instruction asynchronously. And so I'm going to push that onto the next person and they're going to touch on that.
I'll take that, Tom. Right. So I think we have to keep in mind about what the brain research says, that a kid's attention span basically correlates to their age, up to about 20 minutes. I'm pretty old. It doesn't mean I have a long attention span. I was talking about this with students today. So the average age of my kids are, 15. So that means every 15 minutes, I'm switching activities. Face to face. Now, even remotely teaching online, it might even be a shorter amount of time, because we went from teaching an hour long online to now 90 minutes face to face. So we've added time, which is great because we can do more with the language. But even though we're doing remote learning or whatever, you might want to be switching activities pretty quickly, maybe every 12 minutes instead of every 15. So you have to modify things. You also have to give yourself a little bit of grace and know you're not going to get through the material that you used to get through. And that's okay. You pull out what's really important. You think about not what is nice to know anymore, but what is essential to know to move them to the next proficiency level. And once you do that, you can whittle down your I can statements without watering them down. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you can still get them and push them and move them along, but thinking in terms of how much time you have. It's all about planning, really. It's all about backward design and thinking about what can students accomplish in order to help them move to the next level.
I 100% agree with you, Carmen. I've been working on deciding, because we used to be block and now we're down to 50 minutes twice a week as well. And I'm looking at, like, in that precious amount of time, how do I keep them going? So anything that I can do asynchronous that would be less engaging, I'm going to put that to the asynchronous side. So then when we have our 50 minutes, we start out with the pictures or the videos, and we do that kind of a picture talk, kind of like that, which we used to do in class, but it's sometimes in a chat, and sometimes it's like on a separate, you could do it on Jamboard or something else that gets the kids who are not ready to talk yet, because they're still working through this idea of this is school, right? Mm-hmm. So giving them those tasks that make them feel capable of using what language they have at that time to accomplish the task. I'm finding that I'm not making it easier. I'm not watering it down like Carmen said not to, but finding the tasks that I know that kids can pick up real quick and say, I did it, I feel good. And then I leave for the asynchronous tasks where they can take their own time. They can stop and pause and reflect and then send me a question. They can remind me, they can send me an email. Because if I'm making them find answers so quickly during our synchronous time, I feel like I'm overwhelming them. So just balancing the type of tasks that we're going to be giving during the different times has been a big help for the especially the novice students.
Yeah, my school have a similar time schedule with Catherine. In the past, we have a block schedule, so which means 85 minutes. Mm-hmm. But right now, we're down to the 1 hour. And then for my philosophy is take care about the 1 hour effectively is mostly important. Then we have 85 minutes. So right now, I still use the similar way with the GRR, which means I do a very small teaching new stuff, and then go to student to do the we do together to demonstrate a couple of things by using the Google Slide or by using a Jamboard or by whatever we the apps we use. Mm-hmm. And then move to the breakout room for students to do the you do together, or we do together as a whole group, but it's by using the Google Doc. So the sequence of a teaching, I think, is similar. Just make sure it's very small and checkable. I feel that is really good for my student and me as well, because with the pandemic, everything is not controllable. So everything we can check. Okay, the check mark is really, really powerful for them. So they feel, I can do it. So with a lot of a check mark, they feel they are successful in my class. Besides that, okay, I did not use a synchronized time, so which means they still have time to do the homework, but the homework is not look at the video. So in the past, okay, since 2012, I already use a flipped classroom, but at this point, I believe a student already have a lot of screen time. So basically, okay, I want you to relax a little bit and just talk, right, or just do something about the language. It's not about screen time, so I did not use the flipped video, but as long as we decided to what kind of model fits for us, I believe, okay, we can do that one very well. And the student know how to do that one, have the routine, very important for them. Besides that, I have one thing that I think is very well. In the past, in class, I always have a whiteboard. So I am the runner, you know. Most of the time, I put what is the can-do statement there, and what is today's word, what do we learn today, blah 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 blah. But during online, okay, I ask my student to be the runner. So one is a volunteer to be the runner, or assigned as a runner, and one is a volunteer to be the leader. Okay, as a Chinese class, we always need a leader of the class who is to stand up and bow to the teacher, kind of exercise. But keep the routine, right? But the student have a more responsible, and then they feel I can do it, and I know how to lead the class. I know a teacher trusts me, and I can do that one. That's also helpful.
And this reminds me, I'm just going to bring in a comment from one of our folks about this energy again and the trust, since you brought it up again. Charlotte, our colleague from the East Coast, it's not just the 10 minutes before, but then the 10 minutes after, you know, to check in for students who want to check in individually. And I think that really all of these things kind of go together. And one of our viewers also brought up the colander analogy or metaphor, whichever one you want to use, that Rebecca Blue Wolf's been using, because I think both of y'all, all of y'all have referenced that, maybe not in that quite way, is just making the things, you know, what comes out of the colander is what is important. And some things I've just got to leave to the side, particularly, you know, with just 90 minutes a week or an hour a week or whatever for synchronous work. That's got to be really a challenge. I don't know how y'all deal with that. Wow. How do you decide what to focus on versus what to let stay in the colander? I'm kind of going off script here, but that might be something that our folks would value hearing. What makes you decide? How do you decide?
I think it's interesting. What I'm bringing more of is in the personal stories, the things that I, doing that within the target language that relate to our topic, of course. But I'm doing a lot more teacher talk and a lot less, like I used to really encourage the students to be working with their partners and producing the language right then and there. But we're doing that a little bit synchronously now, where they can get together with the partners like that. But I am bringing in more of like my soul to them. Yeah, it's just been, it's a little bit of a difference to me. I don't know that I'm leaving things behind. It's just that I'm tweaking them so that they fit our time together more efficiently.
Yeah, I find I'm scaffolding a lot more. I've always scaffolded, but now I try to be extremely mindful as I'm planning for the following week. Again, we have 2 synchronous days with students, and now we were doing remote. Now it's face-to-face, which is another reason I look so tired, because it's been, I've been standing up for the past 2 days. I haven't done that in 7 months. So that's been a challenge. But then the other 3 days, they're learning asynchronously. So just like you guys said, it's all about, it really goes back to planning. Think about the task that you should do together, where they can speak the language, and you give them the things they need, so that when they are learning on their own asynchronously, they have that support that they need, so they don't feel like they're just hanging out there in cyberspace somewhere without already some support, some crutches, so to say, or some training wheels or whatever they need to help them keep thinking. And I've been talking a lot lately in presentations about, it's not new, it's old, but the idea of growth mindset, and what Carol Dweck said about the power of yet. We even changed our I can statements. We have categories. Instead of saying, got it, on my way, no idea, we changed it to got it, getting there, not yet. Because to me, that's a lot more positive. And it reminds kids that even though we're not all the time face-to-face, and they might be struggling a little bit more, because we know it's challenging to learn online, I don't want them to feel defeated at all. And so I want them to feel like, hey, we've been trying to do this for a while, but you're not there yet, but it's just not yet. You can get there, and let me help you, and here's how we're going to get there. So
then I have to understand, to admit that, okay, I didn't leave something behind. In the past, okay, I'm not a textbook lover. So I already developed my curriculum and then decided that. But honestly, okay, I still little follow the, the guideline, right? Because I'm worried about if it's something I teach and then, the following student, they go to the college, they don't know what is a textbook about. So I still follow that pattern. But recently, I believe that one, okay, I have a lot of different topic. So the topic is about more human being, okay, so which means that as long as we know the proficiency is our goal at a class, okay, in class we just want to make sure a student have the performance, but okay, in the future, right, we really want to push a student know, okay, how their proficiency is. So in terms of the speaking in order to get their proficiency higher, so the topic is quite different. So I use more utilization, okay, think about what is today's their environment, okay, their emotion, or sometimes it's about I use that one, put that one into my lesson. So I needed to very flexible in something. I still have my curriculum. I still have my topic, my big topic. For example, right now, okay, my Chinese 2 and the Chinese 3 are learning election. Okay, in the past, we don't have a chance to talk about this topic 4 years only. So utilization become my philosophy about design the curriculum. So there are certain topics I really did not follow. Really, okay, about the textbook, but I'm not worried about that one. When we go back, right, I believe, okay, my student vocab is more higher, okay, I mean higher advanced than the past, because we learn more topic or more vocab in the past. We never have a chance to really talk about that.
I'm gonna say, I mean, if we're just gonna go back to something old, I mean, if you're doing it online and you're using backwards design, then you're looking at those activities that's going to take your students to whatever your end goal is. If it was, if we're talking, we want our students to make cultural comparisons, which means that they need to engage with the culture and they need to learn with the culture. So what are the activities that are going to get there? Well, a lot of the times to engage in that comparison, when we need to say, oh, well, we have all this vocabulary connected to this one cultural topic, but we really forgot to talk about what you need to make a solid comparison. So that's what we need to teach the students synchronously. But the vocabulary for the culture, well, you've assigned a couple videos that they can do asynchronously, and they're going to engage with that vocabulary there, and they're going to get more comprehensible input there. But they may not be getting the comprehensible input that they need a little more direct instruction, because in the videos they're not saying, and on the other hand, we might see in this culture, and although in our culture it's like this, in the other culture it's like that those transitions may not come up. So we have to think about what are those small stepping stones that would lead the students to our goals. Those might be the big stones that they can take from one level to the next, one unit to the next.
We're going to be hitting that real soon, Tom. I'm excited to tell you about our big stepping stone later.
Okay, excellent. All right, that's a perfect segue to our third topic, which is what really y'all have been talking about in an oblique way, is building skills in the 3 modes. I mean, y'all have all talked about it. I've heard, student to student talk from Thomas. That's important. Then we've got, acquiring, doing all these things, feeling successful, small things. So how do you, in this environment, still focus on processing the language in the interpretive mode and producing language in the interpersonal and presentational modes? So we still are language teachers. We still got to get them there. So how does this connect? Really, what we're doing is connecting everything with the can-dos, the sequencing, building this energy, trust, and respect. How do we get that to happen?
I'd like to throw out something for my novice students who are brand new to me. They're novice mid, let's say, French 2 coming in, and they have kind of their own perspectives of what Francophone culture is. And I said, well, let's make sure that they know more. How many of you have played that game, the Guess Who game, where they have the faces, right? And they have those random faces. So I decided, let's make a Guess Who virtual board with about 20 different Francophones from all different backgrounds, from singers, everything different, right? And I put that up there on the board, but I also needed them to be able to ask and answer questions to each other, to be able to describe somebody. That's one of our, interpersonal can-do statement type things. So I walked them through this kind of a backward flipped classroom experience for them. But when they got online and they had the sentence frames right there, plus the pictures, and then we were using Jamboard so they could mark, kind of like you would on Guess Who, they'd flip it over. They had so much fun with that. And they said, I had the questions right there in front of me, but I knew how to use them anyway because I'd practiced beforehand. And we were able to play the game with 3 different rounds with novice kids. And they were having that interpersonal moment, asking, does he have blue eyes? Is he an actor type of thing? And even though we're kind of stuck in this box, this black box of Zoom, because they didn't turn their cameras on for that, but they were still talking to each other. And some of them were actually texting the questions to each other, which was fun.
Yeah.
They were using their interpersonal skills because so many people are focused on interpersonal speaking. And I said, well, what about interpersonal writing? That is still important. And believe it or not, our students do interpersonal connections through writing all the time. That's their thing. In the classroom, we really try and push interpersonal, like teaching them how to look someone in the eyes and talk, if it's culturally appropriate, of course. And now we're getting them kind of in a half. I can do a little bit of writing, I can do a little speaking.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to jump. I reflect that one. I feel when we do the face-to-face, most of the time, okay, I also discuss with my colleagues about, okay, what kind of a mode, which mode of activity we do most of the time. And then we always come up with a presentational or interpersonal. Because interpretive, student, when we do the interpretive activity in class, and then they just want to look at the other people, and then they try to not believe themselves. They just say, "Can you give me some hint?" And in order to get that one. But during online, I feel totally opposite because there's a more balance into the 3 modes of activity. So we still do the presentation, and besides the personal presentation, my class they really love about. Looks like a conference idea. So which means that there are several breakout rooms, right? So for example, 7 people present, and then 14 people join to the 7 rooms, and then switch. So similar with the conference presentation. And I love that way because as a presenter, if you present one time, okay, for example, my English, you only present one time and you forgot it, right? After that one, I don't know how to say that. But if I practice several times with the same material, right, I'm getting better. So as a presenter, they just host a different audience and came to the breakout room and the presentation skill getting better. And besides that, interpretive the activity in my class, most of the time we do the interpretive activity silently or with the music. So I will choose today's DJ, and then who is or someone is a volunteer to be the today's DJ, and then we have 4 minutes to finish. 5 minutes. Okay, just listen to music, but you can do that one, and then the students don't feel uncomfortable because they know there's a music playing, right? So there's kind of a distract with other people. They feel they are safe about that one. So we just finished Q1. We start the school very early, so we finished Q1 last week, and I do this little survey about that, and then they feel interpretive activity this year. We have a very, very good way to do that one. And interpersonal, I think a lot of teachers know that one, so I'm not going to skip that.
One question that just came in from our viewers and that kind of connects to this, our colleague Nolly in Ohio. What about scaffolding? I know y'all have mentioned it. Thomas talked about the little bitty pieces, and again, in terms of getting this out here, when I have novices or even when I have a complex topic, elections, I can't imagine having a discussion about today's elections with my learners, but how does scaffolding play into the skill building that you're trying to promote? Anybody want to tackle that one?
I'll tackle that with, I'm just going to focus on presentational writing, but it might connect, it'll connect to other things. And how we help students with presentational writing a lot of times with graphic organizers. A lot of times that's something that you work on in class. You might put that on the board and you might have all the students kind of fill out then their own information and walk through that. And that's a little bit different. So hopefully we all have a good arsenal of things that we saved and we can show good examples of previous mental organizers, written organizers that help students like, oh yeah, if I had that organizer put together, I know that I would write a very coherent essay with my ideas together. But being, remote, the students might not see that. So they need those concrete examples, through those synchronous sessions. So when they're working asynchronously, they have that mental picture to look back at.
Exactly. And, Tom, I was using if my family were, so our students are comparing their family and their friends to animals based on certain characteristics. And when I had, yes, it's so much fun. If my mother were an animal, she would be. And sometimes they choose cow. And I said, don't call your mother a cow. Please don't do that. What I do is I save all the videos that they do, because they do screencastify. Even when we're in school, we have that set up for them. And so I have all those videos, and I show 2 or 3, before each writing time that we have, and say, listen to this. Did you hear the connectors? Did you hear that they use more information because they are and using 2 descriptors? Okay, so giving them that plus the sentence frames, right? The sentence frames to guide them through, so that they don't have to come up with fancy French. They need to show off that they can use adjectives to describe people and remind themselves of how to say because they are and how to make adjectives match. And then so they made their presentations, and they said, okay, the scaffolding was that I show the examples, I give them the frames, and then they start working on it themselves. And then I come back, give them their feedback, and they go and return and do a little bit more tweaking on it, so that when we come to recording it, they will have had several ways of experiencing feedback and growth.
Cool. Oh, go ahead.
I would like to go back to respond to Lina 老师 the question about spend more time on scaffolding. My perspective is think about that one, right? So when you compare, you spend more time on something because you compare with in the past, probably is a face-to-face classroom, right? So probably we can think about this way. So when you do the online lesson, the scaffolding is definitely spend more time about this one. So you are on track. So you don't compare to the past, right? And you feel, oh, did I spend too much time? And I don't have time. I feel so worried about, I cannot finish that one. The reason is that we use the past model and then to compare right now, right? Just give that one away and then think about what is your student, your student very well. So if they need it, that's good time. So don't think about that. Is it most of the time about or more time about this one? It's a good thing, right?
Henny, you're a trip. I love you. You say things in such a great way. I love it. Yes. So in terms of scaffolding, again, I think I love it because it really helps me think about things. How do we acquire language? What should I do first with students that makes sense? If I just jump in and expect my novice low or novice mid kids to start producing the language without them having seen it first and heard it first and whatever, and building up confidence on that level, then when I ask them to produce it, they've heard it a million times. They're ready to say it themselves. It's just like a child acquiring language. And one thing I wanted to go back to is we're talking about the modes of communication. I use the terminology with my students from the first week. I'm not saying I don't waste the time, because to me, this is the most valuable week that we have. I talk about the world readiness standards, that those are things they should be learning from me. They should expect those 5 C's. We talk about the 6 core practices, not in those terms. So we talk about proficiency levels, and I relate it to something they had to learn how to do. Now, we live in the mountains, so they learn to ski. So what does it feel like to be a novice skier? And then they understand what it feels like to be a novice language learner, because they can relate some of the same ideas. So we talk about those words. We talk about interpersonal, interpretive, presentational. So when I use those words, and then when they ask me a question, they use one of those words back to me, I'm like, yes. They're thinking of how they are processing language. And I think that just sets the tone for our time together, especially when they're just starting out. They haven't ever had to think about how they learned a language, because it's never been a thing for them. They just learned the language. Well, now we think about how we learn a language, and it helps them learn the language.
I love that you tie it to skills like that, because I mean, when they're going through basketball practice, they learn dribbling. They like, we're going through the dribbling skills so that we can shoot. I don't know these terms, but in music, you know, they're learning scales so that they can do this. And we're going, you're doing this so that you can use, and they're going, oh, there's a reason behind this practice.
Yes.
Wow. I just even hate to move on to our last question, but we need to get there. And this is one I will confess that if I were in the classroom, here's my subjunctive, if I were in the classroom, I'm not quite sure how I would handle it. I probably would have to feel my way around. And that's when we're talking about these opportunities for students to investigate cultural products, practices, and perspectives in terms of interaction. So I need y'all to school me a little bit. Give me some tips. How are you implementing this and making sure that you're keeping culture in focus and in mind, along with all of these other things that we're having to think about all at the same time?
We're getting into a real big identity crisis, an identity experience in my intermediate, mid, and high group, where we're tying our geography to our identities and our products, practices, and perspectives. And what I've done is just start real basic. What do we do in Mount Vernon? What do you celebrate? So we're using food right now because we're going to be studying different parts of the world. What is it that you do in your household to celebrate people's birthdays? Or what do you eat at a wedding? And then we move up to, what is it in the state of Washington that we're known for? We have salmon, so guess what? We have a lot of salmon recipes. And apples, we got a lot of apples. And then we looked at the United States, because not all my students know what they eat over in North Carolina. So I showed them some pictures of barbecue. Okay, yes, really good barbecue there. And then so we looked at the United States, and then we pushed out into the world. Depending on your geography and your local food production, how does that impact the food that you know and treasure? And then how is it served, or when do we eat it, or what reason, what sort of traditions are behind food? And then we're looking at the regions, say in France, and we're saying, since they grow so many cows here, okay, that's why they have boeuf bourguignon. You know, we start tying that together, and we say, look at what you grow, and that's probably going to tell you a little bit about who you are as a culture. That's how we're pulling that in. And it's all tied together, because food identity, geography identity, it can flow and produce all three Ps.
That's awesome.
I'm going to say that trying to tie students together at this point with the culture piece, if we've only got them for so many, this is the time that we've got to trust students to explore. For me, I've got a couple classes where they have to go out and find videos and talk about it doesn't really, but it comes down to they're talking about the products, practices, and perspectives. Like, you know, like what are they doing and why are they doing it? And what do they think about what they're doing? And what do you think about what they're doing? And students, you know, each individual student has to find those videos a couple of times in a unit and say, I'm going to watch this video. I'm going to create questions about this video. And then I use those experiences with the students to create in-class learning activities that I really haven't created, because I just need to kind of fix a little bit of the students' questions, and then we can create that. And there's a lot of great online resources for students to be able to do that. I use Edpuzzle, but I'm not making any plug for anybody.
So really, and I'm connecting that back to this whole thing about showing respect for your learners by actually, it's not like you're asking them to do this for busy work. You know, you're bringing it in and showing what a respectful task for them to do, and then it become part of the learning for everyone. That's really coming around in full circle again. One of again, Charlotte has this great idea, kind of connecting with Catherine's idea about identity through food, identity through performance. What is it about the performances that you choose, athletic, you know, how will you get ready? Does anybody do anything similar to these kinds of things? Or is it an idea you're willing to explore and look at? what has worked for you in terms of, we've heard two good examples.
So, I don't know if there's anything else that humans do besides perform that gets us to do things. That's learning to read. I don't always ask them do you remember how you learned how to read? And they go, no, I sure don't. But they do remember the first time that they picked up the violin, or that they tried to do the when they're walking on the bungee cord. And I said, do you remember how many times you fell down and you got right back up? Or video games. That's my other one. I said, do you always hit reset button and play another game? And they're like, yes, I do, because I'll play for 8 hours straight. And I go, what motivates you? Well, I'm getting better at it. Okay, so that's that's the only thing I can consider is video game analogy to help us know how kids find that self-motivation to keep pushing themselves. They want to be winners. They want to be on the high score. I don't think we talk about that anymore, but the high score on the video arcade games. I know. That's good.
I was on there. My initials were right there. Yeah, I think the more we can tie culture, which happens naturally anyway, to real life for them. And I talk a lot about learning to speak student, because what's in front of them all the time? Their cell phones, their social media. Catherine, you're the queen of the social media, using, Instagram and things, but that is real. And so if you get them to follow, people of the target culture, the target language, that you vetted, or you bring in tweets or Instagram posts or whatever that they can respond to and react to and reflect on, then you're bringing in the products, practice, and some perspectives through a media that they understand.
I remember a couple weeks ago, one of my Chinese she shared with me about she wants to recreate a TikTok. And there's two students, use a TikTok, talk about one of the Chinese, the class, and they want to say, I can do that. Okay, I have a ability to recreate, totally follow the script, but the people do. I did not ask a student to do that kind of a performance checking, because I believe you really love that one and your goal. And then I'm very happy. Some students, they really tied with some cultural or sports or dance or music, and then they created their thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess whatever their interests are, whatever motivates them, that's a lever, for us to act to push down on.
To capitalize on, because they're on multiple devices every day. Their attention span really isn't very long. So if you kind of give them these little vignettes of things to see and experience and do and empathize with. I use a lot of animated shorts with not even any language at all, because they usually have really special messages, and the kids can almost voice those with their own language, whatever level they're at. But they're still getting a lot out of that. We're teaching, again, the whole child. We're not just teaching the language that we're teaching. So by showing them these other things from other cultures, they understand that not everyone sees the world like they do.
It's grabbing those little things that lead to bigger ideas, right? So if they watch that 2-minute TikTok, that 30-second little video on Instagram, they're like, whoa, I want to know more about that. Cooking, or just seeing the world. A little spark makes the fire start.
Well, let me bring us back around to our original question for the night, which was, how do teachers facilitate meaningful learning experiences that advance learning? I want to put you on the spot a little bit. This is like, what is that thing on Family Feud where you have 60 seconds and you have to pick the one? I don't even know. But so think about, in terms of meaningful learning, you as teacher, what if you were going to encapsulate your one go-to that you always thought about or made sure that you did in order to make your learning experiences meaningful, the ones you plan? If you only had that one, what would it be? Because I think, we've talked about a lot of things, lots of ideas, but I know probably buried within you is that one thing you always start with. What is the one thing that you're never going to not do to make that learning meaningful? So we'll just have a pause while you're thinking.
All right. I'll
you're
jump.
ready. He's ready.
Because if teaching live or teaching remotely, you can still bring in video. So it's not what I've always done, because I didn't even have an LCD projector until year 13 or something of my teaching. But
wow.
you with a if you have an authentic video, you can play a short bit at the beginning to engage, with a movie trailer. But you only show part of the video, give the students the resources so that they can understand the content that they're about to see, show them the content, ask them questions about it to engage and understanding, and then have students go into activities where they speak with each other about that content. So they engage, first you engage their interest, then you engage them with the culture, and then you engage them with each other. So there should be interest at each level. Hopefully that came out clear. I feel I spoke very fast.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. Excellent. Who's next?
I'm going to add on. Oh, go ahead, go for it.
Okay, so I'm going to keep my traditional with Greta. I start with I think about that one. I want to serve as a model for student. So I'm learning English. So I work on my English, and then you guys work on your Chinese, because we are the lifelong learner, and I am the model, right? So I keep push myself, and I keep practice that one. And then I believe my student do the same thing as me. So I believe, okay, the best meaningful lesson is meaningful design is we work together. We just want to learn the language, and then I believe that one. If it's good, it's wonderful. But it's bad, it's experience, right?
Okay, excellent. Making it personal to you. I love that idea of being a model.
I'm going to jump off on back to Tom's because he added that, like find out what the students like, find out what tugs at their hearts, right? Because that's what this, like I mentioned earlier, the spark, right? Get them to care about something, and don't make them care, but like, what is it that will make them learn on their own? And then that's something that makes them ask questions, and then decide, I want to be able to use the language and know about the culture so that I can do what is that thing. Because I know a lot of them, they come in with the attitude, I'm not going to use this. And then they find something, just that one little thing, and they're like, I must know all. Give me all the information. And just pushing it back onto them, because I can choose certain topics that will tug at their hearts, whether it's equity for girls in education or social justice, things like that. But unless I'm knowing ahead of time what my students are into, I'm not going to make the whole difference. They want to hear what they want to know.
Excellent.
And that segues perfectly into, again, I love Spanish. I love teaching Spanish, but my goal I'm always going to come back to the relationship piece, because without the trust, without the, I want my students to want to learn from me, and they will want to learn from you if they trust you. So just that, again, I use that word, laying the foundation, but that really sets us up for success with the language. If I get to know them, if I understand what they're going through, if I teach them how to take ownership for our partnership that we're trying to create together, and also teach them to be reflective, I think that helps them on that lifelong journey. I involve them every time I go to present. I tell them what I'm involved in, so they, just like Henny said, they see me as a lifelong learner, because I think that helps them. I admit when I don't know a phrase or a word, and we look it up and we learn together, because I'm not a native speaker of things. So again, that vulnerability, and just willingness to share in all the experiences together, so that they feel part of it, as opposed to, oh, she's just telling us these things we need to do and whatever. No, we're going through that journey together.
High five, Carmen. High five. Give me a high five.
High five, everyone. Yay. It has just been a wonderful experience again. I appreciate y'all's time. I'm writing all my notes for myself here because just ideas. It's just lovely. Something like this. I know Carmen was tired. Thomas was tired. I was tired. We're all tired. But now we're all energized again. We're all energized again. And this is what's so wonderful about being with colleagues. I appreciate all of you guys watching the live stream for being here. Don't forget our next panel will be November 17th.
Wow.
The Tuesday before ACTFL. We will be coming through again, and Laura Terrell will be the moderator for the panel. And I think we're doing planning. So we'll be talking with 4 other wonderful teachers, and they're going to share their experiences with us. So thank you so much, panelists, for being here. Appreciate your time. And again, everyone out in the world, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Guys.
Merci.
Bye.